The impossible discovery. Senior researcher Zix, for 27, had seen many wonders during their 3 centuries of galactic exploration, but nothing had prepared them for this moment. The crystalline displays aboard the research vessel Eternal Curiosity showed readings that simply couldn't be correct. Yet there they were, defying everything known about planetary habitability. "Run the scan again," Zix ordered, their 4 eyes blinking rapidly in sequence, a sign of extreme agitation among their species. Their skin, normally a calm shade of purple, had taken on a distinctly grayish tinge. Junior researcher Maya 8092's tentacles danced across the control panel with practiced precision. "Secondary scan complete, Senior. Results are identical." The impossible data continued to stream across their screens. The planet below them, officially designated as Zone X in all galactic databases, was supposedly so dangerous that it was marked in red on every star chart. Yet their sensors were detecting clear signs of civilization, radio waves, artificial satellites, and vast networks of artificial illumination spanning the dark side of the planet. Dr. Lon, 56, the ship's chief medical officer, floated closer to the main viewport, her gravitational stabilizers humming softly. "Perhaps we're detecting remnants of a dead civilization," she suggested hopefully. "It wouldn't be the first time we've found traces of a species that perished due to their planet's hostile conditions." Zix pulled up the official hazard list for Zone X, their voice carrying the musical tones typical of their species, though now tinged with worry. Gravity, 9.8 meters per square second, nearly crushing levels for most sentient species. Atmosphere, highly corrosive, containing reactive oxygen. Temperature range, extreme variations from -50 degrees Celsius to +50 degrees Celsius. Surface composition, 71% covered in toxic dihydrogen monoxide. Geological activity, constant tectonic movements, active volcanism. Biosphere, aggressive microorganisms present in all environments. Solar radiation, constant exposure to unshielded stellar emissions. This planet, Zix concluded, should be completely sterile. Just then, their communication officer's voice crackled through the ship's speakers. "Senior researcher. I'm detecting thousands, no, millions, of broadcast signals. Moving images, audio data streams, information networks, they're not remnants. They're active." The main screen filled with a cascade of human broadcasts. The alien crew watched in stunned silence as images of daily life on Earth played before them. Humans walked casually under their deadly sun, swam in vast bodies of toxic water, and built towering cities in zones of frequent geological upheaval. "Impossible," Dr. Lon whispered, her medical training failing to explain how any species could survive such conditions. "They're not just surviving. They're thriving." The next several hours were spent analyzing these broadcasts, each new discovery more shocking than the last. They watched humans climb mountains in air so thin it should be fatal, deliberately expose themselves to extreme temperatures in something called saunas, and willingly participate in high-speed collision sports. "Look at their structural integrity," Maya exclaimed, pointing to a broadcast of something called rugby. "They collide with each other at high velocities and simply get up again." Zix's scientific training warred with their observational evidence. Nothing in their centuries of experience could explain this. They needed to make a decision. This discovery was too significant to ignore, but too incredible to report without thorough verification. "Prepare for close orbit insertion," they finally ordered. "We need detailed planetary observations. And activate all stealth systems. We can't risk alerting them to our presence until we understand more about their capabilities." As the Eternal Curiosity moved into a closer orbit, they received another shock. Their sensors detected numerous artificial satellites, some clearly designed for observation. The humans were actively studying their own death world from space. "Senior," Maya called out, their voice trembling slightly, "I've been analyzing their global information network. These humans, they don't even realize they live on a death world. They think these conditions are normal. The implications were staggering. Not only had they discovered a species surviving in conditions that should be impossible, but this species had evolved there, considering lethal environmental conditions to be their natural state. Begin full documentation, Zix ordered, their skin now showing patches of both worry gray and excitement gold. The Galactic Council needs to know about this immediately. We may have just discovered the most resilient species in the known galaxy. Dr. Lon was already compiling medical data, her professional curiosity overriding her initial horror. Their cellular structure is fascinating. They've actually incorporated the corrosive oxygen into their biological processes. They need it to survive. The ship's xenobiologist, KR-Tel-3, joined them at the main viewport. Their genetic diversity is extraordinary. Look at these adaptation ranges. Some humans live in regions where temperatures regularly drop below freezing, while others inhabit areas hot enough to denature proteins in most species. And they do this without any obvious genetic modifications. As the crew continued their observations, they began to notice something else, something that moved this discovery from merely shocking to potentially galaxy-changing. The humans weren't content with merely surviving on their death world. They were actively exploring it, pushing their limits, and even making plans to leave it. They have space programs, Maya reported, their tentacles twisting in agitation. Multiple space programs, operated by different nations. They're not just watching their world from orbit, they're planning to colonize other planets. Zix felt a chill run through their thermal regulation system. The implications were clear, they weren't just documenting a fascinating anomaly. They were witnessing the emergence of what might be the most formidable species the galaxy had ever seen. Set up continuous monitoring stations, they ordered. We need to understand everything about them, their biology, their society, their technology. Most importantly, we need to understand how they think. As the Eternal Curiosity settled into its observation orbit, none of its crew could have predicted how this discovery would eventually reshape their understanding of life itself. The humans below continued their daily lives, completely unaware that they had just been classified as the galaxy's most improbable survivors. And in the ship's main research lab, Zix began composing what would become one of the most important reports in galactic history, on the discovery of humanity, the species that conquered death world conditions through sheer persistence. The first day of observation was just beginning, and already they had more questions than answers. But one thing was certain, nothing in the galaxy would ever be quite the same after this. The biology of the impossible. Dr. Lon, 56, stared at the holographic display in the Eternal Curiosity's main laboratory, her usually steady tentacles trembling with excitement. After 3 days of intensive scanning and observation, the ship's medical bay had been transformed into a chaotic array of data streams and biological analysis protocols. Senior researcher Zix, she called out, her voice carrying the harmonics of scientific breakthrough, you need to see this immediately. Zix, for 27, glided into the laboratory, their skin still showing the mottled patterns of stress and fascination that hadn't faded since their discovery of human civilization. What have you found, Doctor? It's their cellular structure. Dr. Lon manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on a detailed model of human biology. We've been approaching this all wrong. We've been trying to understand how humans survive in lethal conditions, but that's not what's happening at all. They've turned these conditions into advantages. The display shifted to show human cellular respiration. Look at this, they don't just tolerate the corrosive oxygen in their atmosphere, they've developed a completely unique form of energy production that requires it. They've turned a planetary poison into the cornerstone of their metabolism. Maya, 8092, entered the lab, carrying new data from their surface observations. That matches what we're seeing in their behavior patterns. They don't just endure their environment, they actively seek out challenges within it. The junior researcher projected their own findings alongside Dr. Land's cellular analysis. We've documented humans deliberately exposing themselves to progressively more extreme conditions in something they call training. They intentionally tear their muscle fibers, stress their cardiovascular system, and expose themselves to impact forces. And instead of dying, they become stronger, Dr. Lon finished, her excitement causing her chromatophores to pulse with brilliant colors. Their bodies respond to damage by overcompensating. They don't just heal, they improve. Zix moved closer to the displays, their 4 eyes focusing on different data streams simultaneously. Show me the stress response analysis. The holographic display shifted again, now showing a complex network of hormonal and neural responses. Dr. Land's tentacles danced across the controls, highlighting different pathways. Their stress response system is unlike anything we've ever seen, she explained. When faced with a threat, their bodies release compounds that enhance their physical capabilities. Increased strength, improved reflexes, enhanced pain tolerance, they literally become stronger in response to danger. But that's not even the most extraordinary part, she continued, pulling up another dataset. Look at their nervous system's plasticity. When exposed to chronic stress, conditions that would cause permanent damage in most species, they can actually develop new neural pathways. They adapt at the neurological level. Krell, 89, the ship's safety officer, had joined them in the lab, his protective scales bristling with concern. Are you saying they become more dangerous the more we would try to contain them? Precisely, Dr. Lon confirmed. And it gets more interesting. Their reproduction system. She paused, checking her data again as if still not quite believing it. They can breed year-round. Not just during specific seasons or under optimal conditions, they can produce offspring at any time, in almost any environment they occupy. The implications of this revelation sent a wave of uneasy color changes through the assembled alien researchers. Most species required carefully controlled conditions for successful reproduction. The ability to breed regardless of environmental conditions meant humans could establish themselves almost anywhere. There's more, Maya added, pulling up their behavioral studies. Their young, despite being completely helpless at birth, have the most plastic neural networks we've ever encountered. They can learn and adapt to new conditions at a rate that shouldn't be possible. And their parents invest extraordinary resources in raising them, far beyond simple survival requirements. Zix absorbed this information, their scientific mind racing to understand the implications. Show me their genetic diversity analysis. The display shifted again, now showing a complex map of human genetic variations. Dr. Lon highlighted several key regions. This is perhaps the most surprising discovery of all. Their species maintains an extremely high level of genetic diversity, even within small population groups. It's as if their entire genome is optimized for rapid adaptation. Look at these phenotypic expressions, she continued, showing images of humans from different regions of Earth. They've developed distinct adaptations for different environments, variations in skin pigmentation, body composition, oxygen processing efficiency, all while remaining a single, interbreeding species. It's an evolutionary strategy we've never seen before. The ship's xenobiologist, Tel-3, who had been quietly analyzing the data from their own station, spoke up. It's their repair mechanisms that truly set them apart. Most species we've encountered have to choose between rapid healing and cancer prevention. Somehow, humans manage both. They can repair significant tissue damage while maintaining relatively low rates of runaway cell growth. And their immune system, Dr. Lon added, pulling up yet another display. It's simultaneously robust and adaptable. They can survive diseases that would wipe out most species, and their immune response actually remembers pathogens it has encountered, becoming stronger with each challenge. Zix studied the accumulated data, their skin shifting through patterns of deep thought. What you're describing isn't just a species that survived against odds. You're describing a species that evolved to thrive on adversity itself. Exactly. Dr. Land's enthusiasm caused her gravitational stabilizer to flutter. They don't just survive their death world, they're perfectly adapted to it. More than that, they require environmental stress to develop properly. Without regular challenges, their bodies actually become weaker. The research team fell into contemplative silence, each processing the implications of these discoveries. Finally, Zix spoke, their voice carrying the weight of scientific revelation. "We need to expand our investigation," they decided. "Dr. Lon, continue your biological analysis, but we need to understand more than just their physical adaptations. How has this biological resilience shaped their psychology? Their society? Their technological development?" "There's one more thing," Maya added hesitantly. "We've been detecting unusual energy signatures from their major population centers. It appears they're not just adapting to their environment anymore, they're actively working to modify it." Zix's skin rippled with concern. "Explain." "They're developing technologies to control their environment, to make it more suitable for their needs. But instead of seeking safety, they're using these capabilities to push into even more extreme conditions. They're building habitats underwater, in frozen wastelands, and even in orbit around their planet. A species that thrives on adversity, armed with the tools to seek out new challenges," Krell muttered, his scales darkening with worry. "The galaxy isn't prepared for something like this." "No," Zix agreed, their skin now showing the complex patterns that indicated both concern and fascination. "But we need to understand them better. Expand our observation protocols. I want to know everything about how they think, how they organize themselves, how they plan for the future." As the research team dispersed to their new assignments, Dr. Lon remained in the laboratory, still studying the human cellular data. She had spent her entire career studying the ways different species adapted to their environments, but this was something entirely new. Humans hadn't just adapted to survive in lethal conditions, they had turned those very conditions into the foundation of their existence. The implications were both exciting and terrifying. What would happen when a species that grew stronger through adversity began to explore the galaxy? How would they react to discovering that what they considered normal was seen as lethal by most other intelligent life? As she continued her analysis, Dr. Lon couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just studying another interesting species. They were witnessing the emergence of something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that didn't just survive against the odds, but needed those odds to reach their full potential. The next phase of their research would prove even more revealing, though none of them could have predicted just how deeply the study of humanity would challenge their understanding of life itself. The mind of the impossible. The ship's behavioral analysis chamber aboard the Eternal Curiosity had never been so active. Chief Psychologist Ven 459 floated in their suspension field, all 6 neural clusters pulsing with intense concentration as they studied the streams of data flowing through the holographic displays surrounding them. "This can't be right," they muttered, their voice carrying the harmonics of deep distress. Senior researcher Zix, "These behavioral patterns, they defy all known models of species development." Zix 427 moved closer to the central display, where multiple video feeds showed humans in various situations across their planet. "Explain." "Most species," Ven began, their neural clusters synchronizing to project their analysis into the shared consciousness field, develop consistent survival strategies. They either become aggressive or defensive, solitary or communal, specialized or adaptable. But humans. They gestured at the displays with their field manipulators, they somehow maintain multiple contradictory strategies simultaneously. The screens showed humans in various scenarios, soldiers training for combat alongside medical personnel practicing healing arts, individuals competing fiercely in something called business, while others collaborated on massive scientific projects, some humans living in complete isolation while others thrived in densely packed cities. "Look at this," Ven continued, pulling up their psychological profile analysis. "They're simultaneously the most cooperative and most competitive species we've ever encountered. They can switch between ruthless aggression and extraordinary altruism in moments. Their social structures shouldn't be stable, and yet they've built a global civilization," Zix finished, their skin rippling with thoughtful patterns. Maya 8092 entered the chamber, their tentacles still dancing with excitement from their latest surface observations. It gets more complicated. We've been monitoring their entertainment and cultural broadcasts. These humans, they deliberately seek out psychological stress for pleasure. Explain, Zix ordered, their 4 eyes focusing intently on the junior researcher. Maya projected their findings onto the main display. They create simulated experiences they call stories, or games, that trigger their stress responses. They voluntarily expose themselves to fear, sadness, tension, and uncertainty through these artificial means. And instead of causing trauma, it appears to make them more resilient. Dr. Lon, 56, joined them, adding her medical perspective to the discussion. That matches our neurological findings. Their brains actually form new neural pathways in response to stress and challenge. They become stronger not just physically, but mentally through adversity. Ven's neural clusters pulsed with increasing agitation. But that's not even the most extraordinary aspect. Look at their response to the unknown. They pulled up new data streams showing human scientific endeavors, exploration missions, and theoretical research. Most species avoid uncertainty, it triggers survival stress responses. Humans actively seek it out. They're constantly pushing boundaries, asking questions, exploring new territories. They've turned their natural curiosity into a survival advantage. And their social structures support this, Maya added, displaying their analysis of human educational systems. They deliberately expose their young to increasing levels of challenge and uncertainty, teaching them to adapt rather than avoid stress. Krell, 89, monitoring the discussion from his security station, interjected with his own concerns. Their conflict resolution strategies are equally baffling. They can wage devastating wars and then forge lasting alliances with former enemies. How can a species be so simultaneously destructive and cooperative? Ven manipulated the displays to show historical records they'd extracted from human databases. It's all connected to their unique psychological adaptation to their death world. They've developed what they call hope, a mental state that allows them to envision and work toward positive outcomes even in seemingly impossible situations. This hope, Dr. Lon mused, it appears to be more than just an emotional state. It has measurable effects on their physiology, enhancing their survival capabilities. Precisely, Ven confirmed. And it's tied to another unique trait they call determination. When faced with challenges that should trigger retreat responses, they often become more committed to their goals. They don't just fight or flee, they analyze, adapt, and overcome. The research team watched footage of human achievements, the first flight, moon landings, deep-sea exploration, medical breakthroughs. Each represented challenges that should have been insurmountable. Their response to failure is particularly noteworthy, Ven continued. Most species learn to avoid actions that lead to negative outcomes. Humans, they've developed a culture that often celebrates failure as a path to success. They call it learning from mistakes. Zix absorbed this information, their skin showing complex patterns of scientific fascination. You're describing a species that doesn't just survive challenges, they need them for proper psychological development. Exactly. Ven's neural clusters pulsed with excitement. They've developed a psychological framework that turns adversity into advantage. Their mental resilience might be even more remarkable than their physical adaptations. The displays shifted to show human artistic expressions, music, painting, literature, dance. And look at this, Ven continued. They channel their psychological experiences into abstract forms of communication that enhance group bonding and individual resilience. They process trauma through art, strengthen social bonds through shared cultural experiences, and transmit survival strategies through stories. Their information-sharing strategies are unlike anything we've seen, Maya added. They don't just pass on successful survival techniques, they actively imagine and plan for challenges they haven't even encountered yet. They call it science fiction. Dr. Lon pulled up her latest neurological scans. Their brains show increased activity when engaging with these hypothetical scenarios. They're literally training their minds to handle unknown challenges through imagination. Krell's protective scales bristled. So they're not just adapting to their death world, they're actively preparing to face new challenges beyond it? More than that, Ven replied, their voice carrying the harmonics of profound realization. They appear to need these challenges. Without them, their societies show signs of psychological distress. They don't just survive through adversity, they thrive on it. Zix studied the accumulated data, their 4 eyes taking in different streams simultaneously. We need to understand the implications of this. A species that grows stronger through adversity, equipped with both the physical and psychological tools to face any challenge. And they're on the verge of expanding into space, Krell reminded them, his scales darkening with concern. That's what makes this so crucial, Zix responded. We're not just studying an interesting anomaly. We're witnessing the emergence of a species that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of what's possible. The research team fell into contemplative silence, watching the streams of human activity continuing below them. On the planet's surface, billions of humans went about their daily lives, facing challenges that would be considered lethal by most galactic species, and not just surviving, but finding ways to thrive. Continue the observations, Zix finally ordered. But we need to expand our focus. If we're going to understand humanity's potential impact on the galaxy, we need to study their technological development and their long-term ambitions. As the team dispersed to their new assignments, Ven remained in the behavioral analysis chamber, their neural clusters still processing the implications of their discoveries. They had come to study how a species survived on a death world, only to find something far more significant, a species that had turned the very concept of survival into an art form. The next phase of their research would reveal even more surprising discoveries about humanity's potential, though none of them could have predicted just how deeply these revelations would challenge their understanding of life's possibilities in the universe. The engineering of the impossible. Chief Engineer Telvor stood before the Eternal Curiosity's primary engineering analysis chamber, their crystalline appendages vibrating with a mixture of professional awe and deep concern. The holographic displays surrounding them showed an endless stream of human technological achievements, each more bewildering than the last. They shouldn't have survived long enough to develop any of this, Telvor muttered, their voice carrying harmonics of distress. Yet look at their technological progression curve. Senior researcher Zix, for 27, glided into the chamber, their skin showing patterns of intense interest. Show me what you found. Telvor manipulated the displays with precise movements of their crystalline limbs. Most species develop technology in a linear fashion, focusing on one area of survival at a time. But humans. They gestured at the chaotic display of human innovations. They pursue multiple technological paths simultaneously, often creating solutions for problems they haven't even encountered yet. The screens showed a dizzying array of human inventions, vehicles that move through air, water, and space, devices that could peer into the quantum realm and out to the edges of their observable universe, machines that could rewrite genetic code and others that could harness the power of atoms themselves. Look at this timeline, Telvor continued, bringing up a historical progression of human technology. From first powered flight to landing on their moon in just 66 solar cycles. That's not just unprecedented, it should be impossible. Maya, 8092 entered the chamber, adding their latest observations. And they achieved this while simultaneously developing in countless other technological directions. They weren't just focusing on space flight, they were revolutionizing medicine, computing, energy production, and communications all at the same time. But how? Krell, 89 asked from his security station. How did they develop so quickly in such hostile conditions? Dr. Lon, 56, joined the discussion, her medical expertise offering a unique perspective. It's connected to their psychological profile. Their problem-solving approach is unlike anything we've seen. They don't just solve problems, they become obsessed with finding multiple solutions to the same challenge. Telvor highlighted a series of human transportation technologies. Exactly. Look at this, they developed ground vehicles, aircraft, ships, and spacecraft not because each previous method failed, but because they wanted options. They're constantly seeking alternatives, improvements, new approaches. And their technological development isn't just about survival, Maya added, pulling up their cultural analysis. They create technology for entertainment, for art, for pure scientific curiosity. They've turned technological innovation into a form of cultural expression. Zix studied the displays intently, their 4 eyes taking in different data streams simultaneously. Show me their energy technology progression. Telvor brought up a new series of displays. This is where it gets truly remarkable. They started with simple combustion, but look at their development curve. They've mastered atomic energy, they're developing fusion technology, and they're already theorizing about even more advanced energy sources. But what's most interesting, the engineer continued, is how they handle technological failures. Instead of abandoning failed approaches, they often persist, learning from each setback until they succeed. They have this saying, failure is not an option. Then, 459, the ship's psychologist, added their insight. It's consistent with their psychological profile. They don't just accept failure as a learning experience, they seem to draw motivation from it. Each failed attempt becomes a challenge to overcome. The displays shifted to show human manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, and testing centers. Telvor manipulated the controls, highlighting specific examples. Their approach to problem solving is equally fascinating. They don't just develop technology, they constantly iterate and improve upon it. They call it innovation. And look at their information sharing networks, Maya added excitedly. They've created a global system for instantaneous communication and data exchange. Any human with access to their internet can learn about virtually any subject, contact others across their planet, and contribute to collective knowledge. Dr. Lon pulled up her latest analysis. Their technology isn't just external either. They're developing ways to enhance their own biology, artificial limbs, organ replacements, genetic modifications. They're not content with their natural capabilities, impressive as those are. Krell's protective scales bristled. They're actively working to overcome their biological limitations. More than that, Telvor replied, bringing up projections of human technological development. They're planning to expand beyond their planet entirely. Look at these design concepts for space habitats, planetary colonies, and interstellar vessels. Zix's skin rippled with concern. Show me their weapons technology. The displays shifted again, showing the progression of human military technology. Telvor's crystalline appendages trembled slightly. They've developed weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization several times over. Yet somehow, they've managed to avoid using them for total war. Their technological development appears to follow a unique pattern, Venn observed. They often create things that could destroy them, then develop safeguards and protocols to prevent disaster. It's as if they're constantly testing their own limits. But here's what's most remarkable, Telvor continued, bringing up a new set of displays. They're already theorizing about technologies that even we haven't mastered. Quantum computing, artificial intelligence, matter manipulation at the subatomic level. Some of their theoretical physicists are proposing ideas that our best scientists haven't even considered. Zix absorbed this information, their skin showing complex patterns of both fascination and worry. You're describing a species that's not just surviving through technology, they're using it to reshape their reality according to their will. Exactly. Telvor's crystalline appendages sparkled with excitement. They don't just adapt to their environment, they adapt their environment to suit their needs. And they're doing this at an accelerating rate. The research team fell silent, watching the streams of human technological activity continuing below them. In laboratories, factories, and research centers across the planet, humans were pushing the boundaries of what their alien observers had thought possible. There's one more thing, Maya added hesitantly. We've detected signs that they're close to several major technological breakthroughs. Their understanding of quantum mechanics, their experiments with artificial intelligence, their research into new forms of propulsion, they're on the verge of multiple technological leaps. Krell's scales darkened further. A species that thrives on adversity, armed with increasingly advanced technology, and preparing to expand into space. The implications for galactic society are both exciting and terrifying, Zix finished. We need to understand more about their long-term goals, their cultural values, their potential impact on galactic civilization. Expand the observation protocols. I want to know everything about their plans for the future. As the team dispersed to their new assignments, Telvor remained in the engineering chamber, their crystalline appendages still processing the vast array of human technological achievements. They had come to study how a species survived on a death world, only to find something far more significant, a species that refused to accept any limitations, whether imposed by their environment or by the laws of physics themselves. The next phase of their research would reveal even more about humanity's potential impact on the galaxy, though none of them could have predicted just how deeply these revelations would shake the foundations of galactic civilization itself. The future of the impossible. The command center of the Eternal Curiosity hummed with nervous energy as senior researcher Zix, for 27 prepared to transmit their final report to the Galactic Council. After 2 weeks of intensive observation, the research team had assembled what would arguably be the most important document in recent galactic history. Are we certain about this course of action? Krell, 89 asked, his protective scales shifting anxiously. Once we submit this report, everything changes. Zix's skin displayed complex patterns of determination mixed with concern. We have no choice. The council must be prepared for what's coming. The senior staff had gathered for one final review of their findings. The holographic displays surrounding them showed a comprehensive summary of their observations: human biology defying death world conditions, psychological resilience that turned adversity into advantage, social structures that promoted both cooperation and competition, and technological development that proceeded at an almost impossible pace. Dr. Lon, 56, manipulated her medical displays, highlighting key points in their biological analysis. We've confirmed it, humans aren't just surviving on their death world. They're the product of it. Every aspect of their biology shows signs of adaptation to extreme conditions. And their psychological profile suggests they're literally hardwired for expansion, Ven, 459 added, their neural clusters pulsing with excitement. They don't just adapt to challenges, they actively seek them out. Space exploration isn't just a scientific endeavor for them, it's a fundamental drive. Chief Engineer Telvor's crystalline appendages sparkled with nervous energy. Their technological development continues to accelerate. Based on our projections, they'll achieve reliable interstellar travel within 3 generations. 5 at most. That's not nearly enough time for the galaxy to prepare, Krell muttered. Zix moved to the center of the command deck, their 4 eyes scanning the assembled data one final time. Perhaps that's exactly why we need to act now. Computer, begin recording final report summary. The ship's systems hummed to life as Zix began their historic transmission. To the Galactic Council. Subject, Humanity, a new classification of life. Priority, highest. Security level, maximum. Esteemed Council members. What we have discovered on planet Earth, locally designated, requires us to fundamentally reconsider our understanding of life itself. The human species represents more than just an anomaly, they are an entirely new category of intelligent life, one that thrives on conditions we previously considered lethal. Our comprehensive study has revealed several critical findings. First, humans have not merely survived their death world environment, they have turned its lethal conditions into evolutionary advantages. Their biology requires what we consider extreme conditions to function properly. They need gravitational stress to maintain bone density. They require resistive forces to develop muscle strength. They use corrosive oxygen as the cornerstone of their cellular energy production. Second, their psychological development is equally adapted to extreme conditions. They demonstrate unprecedented mental resilience, turning stress and adversity into catalysts for growth. Their problem-solving abilities are enhanced by challenges that would break most species. They possess a unique characteristic they call hope, the ability to envision and work toward positive outcomes even in seemingly impossible situations. Third, their social structures are unlike anything we've encountered. They maintain simultaneously competitive and cooperative social systems, allowing them to both contest and collaborate as needed. This flexibility has produced a species capable of both incredible destruction and remarkable creation. Fourth, their technological development follows patterns that defy our models of species advancement. They pursue multiple technological paths simultaneously, often developing solutions for problems they haven't yet encountered. Their rate of innovation is accelerating, and they show no signs of reaching a plateau. Most critically, they are preparing to expand beyond their death world. Our projections indicate they will achieve reliable interstellar travel within 3 to 5 generations. When this occurs, the galaxy will face a species that considers lethal environments normal, grows stronger through adversity, possesses unprecedented adaptability, demonstrates remarkable technological innovation, shows an insatiable drive to explore and expand. The implications for galactic society cannot be overstated. Current protocols for species integration are entirely inadequate for handling human contact. Their very existence will challenge fundamental assumptions about life throughout the galaxy. Therefore, we make the following recommendations. Immediate reclassification of humans as a Category 0 species, a designation indicating potential galaxy-changing capabilities. Formation of a dedicated task force to prepare for eventual human contact. Complete revision of current species integration protocols. Establishment of observation posts to monitor human development. Development of new diplomatic approaches suitable for engaging with a death world species. Most controversially, we recommend against any immediate contact initiatives. Humanity must be allowed to develop naturally until they achieve interstellar travel on their own. Our analysis suggests that premature contact could actually inhibit their development. They require challenges to reach their full potential. However, we must begin preparing the galaxy for their eventual emergence. When humans do achieve interstellar travel, they will not arrive as supplicants seeking admission to galactic society. They will arrive as equals, bringing perspectives and capabilities that could revolutionize our understanding of life's possibilities. In conclusion, we are not merely documenting the discovery of another intelligent species. We are witnessing the emergence of what may be the most significant force for change in recent galactic history. How we prepare for and handle this emergence will likely define the next era of galactic civilization. End report. Zix paused the recording, their skin showing complex patterns of emotion. Opinions before transmission. The command center was silent for a long moment as the senior staff considered the implications of their report. Finally, Dr. Lon spoke up. We're really letting them develop on their own. Even knowing what they might become. Especially knowing what they might become, Zix replied. We've seen how they respond to challenges. Removing those challenges could be the worst thing we could do to them. Ven's neural clusters pulsed thoughtfully. They're going to change everything, aren't they? Not just our understanding of biology and physics, but our entire concept of what's possible. Yes, Zix agreed, their skin showing patterns of both concern and hope. But perhaps that's exactly what the galaxy needs, a species that refuses to accept limitations, that turns adversity into advantage, that looks at the impossible and sees opportunity. Krell's scales had settled into a pattern of resigned acceptance. The galaxy will never be the same. No, Zix replied, reaching for the transmission controls. It will be better. Computer, complete recording and transmit to Galactic Council, Priority Channel. As the report streamed toward the galactic core, the crew of the Eternal Curiosity watched the blue-white planet below them. Somewhere down there, billions of humans went about their daily lives, facing conditions that would kill most species, dreaming of stars they would one day reach, completely unaware that they had just been classified as the most significant discovery in recent galactic history. Prepare for departure, Zix ordered. But maintain stealth protocols. We don't want to give them any hints about what's out here. They need to find it on their own. As the Eternal Curiosity began its departure sequence, the crew took one final look at Earth, no longer seen as a death world, but as the crucible that had forged something unprecedented in the galaxy, a species that had turned adversity itself into their greatest strength. The ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind a planet that would, in time, give birth to a force that would reshape the very definition of what was possible in the universe. The humans continued their relentless progress, unaware that the galaxy was already preparing for their arrival. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Council, a priority message began making its way through the system, a message that would eventually lead to the creation of the most important task force in galactic history, the Human Integration Preparation Committee. The impossible species was coming. The galaxy would never be the same.